All right, so hi, my name is Nathen Harvey. As Dave mentioned, I lead DORA at a place called Google Cloud. I'm just going to ask that the cameras be turned off. Not really. You can keep them on. It's fine. You're not live streaming this, right? Okay, good. Because I'm going to talk to you today about something that we haven't released yet. You were the first audience to get these insights. This report that I'm going to talk about will be out sometime next week. And I have a philosophy about release dates. If someone tells you a release date and it's in the past, you can trust that release date. If someone tells you a release date that's in the future, grain of salt. So maybe Tuesday we'll release this report that I'm going to talk to you about today. But it's all about these latest findings that we have with DORA. Let's see. There we go. Maybe. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so you're know and love DORA. It's research into the capabilities that enable technology-driven organizations and teams to improve. This research, although it lives within Google Cloud, is technology and platform agnostic. This is not research about how do you get better on Google Cloud, although, of course, we would welcome you to come get better on Google Cloud. This is really about how do you get better at getting better, a journey of continuous improvement. And how many of you read the 2024 report? Really quickly, show of hands. Okay, you can lie to me if I'll feel better if you raise your hand. All right, there. Benji raised 2 hands. I know he read it twice. That's good. Well, in case you didn't read the 2024 report, first, it was our 10th report. 10 is a big number. I think we're celebrating 10 of something right now, actually. So that's pretty cool. One of the things that we looked into pretty deeply was the impact of AI, like what's happening with AI. And we saw a lot of really interesting things. We were seeing or hearing from survey respondents that it was increasing their productivity, increasing their flow. But we saw some things that weren't great. There was a negative impact on software delivery performance. That's right. Those 4 DORA metrics that you know and love, they were getting worse as you increased the amount of AI that you were using. So that's interesting. And then also interestingly, about 39% of respondents last year said they had little or no trust in the outputs of AI. So that's interesting, and I wonder what's happening now. So take out your phones right now. You can go download the report right here. I'm lying. You can't download the report yet. You can go to a QR code and see that it is coming soon. But it will be at that same place soonish, next week sometime, Tuesday maybe. But this year's report will be called the State of AI-assisted software development. So I hope that you are looking forward to reading it as much as I'm looking forward to finally shipping it. So what have we learned and how does it compare to last year? Well, first and foremost, you all are using AI. AI is here. In our survey response, well, let's just do this here. How many of you are using AI today at work for anything? All right, yeah, see, our math is right. It's about 90% of the room. It's almost to the point where we could have gone out and run a survey with technology professionals and said, are you using a computer at work? The answer is yes, right? So someone, somewhere on your team, if not you, is using AI to help get things done. This is about a 14% increase from last year. Not a big deal. Not a big surprise. Obviously, everyone is using it. We also ask about reliance on AI at work. We care that you're using it, but using something and relying on something are kind of 2 different levels. And so when we get into reliance, we see that 37% are relying on AI a moderate amount, so 37%, 20% a lot, and 8% a great deal. So again, that's a large portion of us that are relying on AI to get certain tasks done, not for everything that we do, but for certain tasks, maybe like coding. There are about 5% that are the holdouts, like I'm not relying on AI at all. There could be a lot of reasons behind why that is the case. This is another interesting thing. We ask about reflexive use. So I just wonder from you, if you are given a new task to solve, you have a new problem, a new ticket that comes in, how many of you just by reflex reach for AI? Like, this is a tool I'm going to use right now. I'm going to try it. How many of you do that? Sorry, I'm a researcher. We collect data all the time. I'm going to keep asking you to raise your hand. I'm always running surveys in case you haven't figured that out yet. So we're seeing a large portion of people have this reflexive use of AI. So we're relying on it, we're using it reflexively, and we're using it a lot. We actually asked, how often are you using AI in a typical workday? So if you think back 3 days ago at work, 3 working days ago, about how long would you say you were interacting with AI? There were some people that said, it's kind of hard to see, but there were some people that said, in the last working day, I interacted with AI for about 12 hours. Okay, so we have some other things that we talk about with DORA, burnouts, that, maybe think about your life choices here. But on average, the median was about 2 hours a day. So we're using it, we're relying on it, we're reflexively reaching for it, and we're using it a lot. 2 hours a day, you're interacting with AI. What does it mean, though? Well, one of the things that we're seeing is it's improving productivity. We ask, is working with AI improving your own productivity? And a large, significant portion here, again, said yes, it's either slightly increased, moderately increased, or extremely increased my productivity, with a very small percentage, less than 10%, saying it's having a decrease at all. In fact, it's 3 plus 1 plus, I don't know. It just says percent there. I don't know what that bottom number is. So it's helping with your own perception of your own productivity. What about for your code base? How many have used AI to generate any bit of code? Right? And is it making your code bases better or worse? Well, yeah, I see a lot of this happening. Yeah, well, that's kind of what we see also. On the whole, though, what we're seeing is that AI is improving the quality, the underlying quality of our code base. And again, we see about 10% that are saying it's slightly worse or even extremely worse at 1%. But on the whole, we're seeing the quality of your code base improve. Now, when it comes to this one, this is a really interesting thought experiment that I'm going to just take you all down for a second. So you're using AI to write code, right? So maybe that's improving the quality, underlying quality of your code base. How many of you have used AI to explain code? A lot of you, right? What does this code do? So maybe the AI is actually improving the underlying quality of our code base, or maybe it's giving you better comprehension and therefore better utility out of your shitty code bases. Which do you think it is? I think it's probably both, right? The code quality doesn't necessarily need to improve for us to get more utility out of that code. Maybe we just become smarter engineers. Or maybe we think we're smarter engineers because the AI just explained this code to me. Now, it might have been wrong, but it was probably right, I'm sure. Yeah, all right, so that's the perceived impact on code quality. Trust. Trust is a big thing, though, right? Do we trust what this AI is giving us? And similar to last year, we see a varied range of trust in the output of AI. Some of us trust it a great deal, 4% of us. If you are part of the 4%, I definitely want to talk to you. Yes, you should probably trust the AI, not 100%, maybe not even a great deal. But, we see 46% at somewhat, 20% at a lot. But 23 and 7, that's 30 if I'm doing math correctly, and I am on the stage in front of a lot of people, so my math is probably wrong, but it's all on the slides. You can validate me. That 30% trusts the output a little or not at all. Frankly, I think that's really healthy. That's kind of survey respondents, but if I think about my own interaction with AI, I certainly don't trust what it tells me all the time. I do want to validate what it tells me. I hope that I have tests in place that can validate this code that was generated. So I think this is a healthy level of trust in the quality of what's generated. So now this is a really hard slide to read and even harder to explain. I'll give you the quick tour through this slide, what we're looking at here. It's good to know sort of how are people using AI or not? Yes, they are, and here's how they're relying on it. But what we really are interested in is, but what's the impact? How is that changing things that we actually care about? Remember, I told you last year, software delivery performance, as an example, was getting worse as we used more AI. So what's happening this year? So on the vertical axis here, the y-axis, you can see some of the things, the outcomes that we care about. And we want to understand, how does AI impact these things? And for those of you in the back, or the second row, because the font is small and you can't read it, I'm just going to read you down the list. Starting at the top, we have individual effectiveness, then software delivery instability, organizational performance, valuable work, code quality, product performance, software delivery throughput, team performance, burnout, and friction. Right, so all of these are things that you probably care about. Well, what happens As you're using more and more AI, how are these things impacted? This dashed line going up the middle, that's 0. To the right, that outcome is increasing. To the left, the outcome is decreasing. So what does that tell us? Individual effectiveness. How effective am I in my work? As I use more AI, that's going up. And that's going up significantly relative to these other ones. Next up, software delivery instability. That's also going up. Instability going up, that's not awesome. But it is a trend that we continue to see from last year. Organizational performance, valuable work, code quality, product performance, software delivery throughput, also improving. So that's a reversal from last year. Last year we saw throughput dropping off. This year we are moving faster, but things are still not quite stable. Burnout and friction are basically 0. And this, honestly, it's not really a surprise. If you're feeling burnt out at work, it's probably not because your boss didn't give you an AI tool. And if you want to alleviate some of that burnout, you're not going to do it by starting to use a new tool. Like that's not how that works. Burnout is a systemic issue. We need to look at bigger things than just, well, throw some AI at it. That'll fix the burnout. That's not going to fix the burnout. In fact, there is some good news in this, though. As you use more AI, the burnout, it could certainly increase. So it's not hurting our burnout. It's just not really affecting any burnout that you might be experiencing. So just for those of you that are keeping the scorecard on what's changed 2024 to 2025, I have it here on this slide, but I just want to throw out a caveat, especially for all of you research nerds in the room. This is not a longitudinal study, right? We run a survey every year, and it's completely anonymous. So I have no idea of knowing that Dave took the survey last year and Dave took the survey this year. And so I can't, because I don't know if Dave did both, I'm sure he did both, because he told me he did, so therefore he must have. But I can't compare his answers. I can't understand how did it change for Dave over time. These are really snapshots of the industry each year that we are able to collect. So even though I'm doing it right here, these comparisons aren't technically apples to apples comparisons. They are technically industry snapshot to industry snapshot comparisons with potentially different data. But there are some consistent good benefits from using more AI. Individual effectiveness, code quality, team performance, organizational performance. They were up last year, they're up again this year. Some that are stubborn, friction and burnout, no relationship with AI. That's okay, I think, at least on the burnout side. That increase in software delivery instability continues. But we do see some changes for the better. The amount of time that I report as an individual in this survey, spending time on valuable work, has gone from negative to positive. So I'm spending more time on valuable work, which kind of makes sense if it's lining up with individual effectiveness and individual productivity. Delivery throughput was negative last year. It's positive this year. So we're moving a little bit faster. It's not a huge positive, but it is positive. And product performance. Product performance is the way that we measure that are things like, are the users of your product able to get the tasks done that they want? Is your product operationally sound? Is it available? Is it fast? Things like that. Those are product performance. Last year we saw AI was having a neutral effect, kind of like we see with friction and burnout. No real impact, but this year it's positive. So that's, again, some good signs. Not 100% good, but we're getting some mixed signals here, but on the whole, pretty positive. Now, we all know and love the DORA software delivery performance metrics, right? We sometimes call these the 4 keys, and I've already had at least 4 conversations today about those 4 metrics. So I just want to remind you of what those 4 metrics are. Remember, I'm bad at math. Has anyone figured out my problem with math? Look, we don't have 4 metrics anymore. We have 5 metrics now. This is the second year that we have 5 metrics. But for those of you that maybe have not heard of DORA, let's just talk about how we measure software delivery very quickly. We measure software delivery performance using 2 high-level factors. Throughput, how much change can you push through the system, and then stability of those changes as they land into production. And on the throughput side, we measure lead time for changes. How long does it take for a commit to go from your workstation into the production environment? Deployment frequency, how frequently are you updating the production environment? And your failed deployment recovery time. When you update the production environment and something goes wrong, how long does it take you to recover from that? Those are 3 measures of throughput. On the stability side, or the instability side, we have 2 additional metrics. The change fail rate, that's what the researchers call it. I have a different name for it. I call it the O-expletive rate. That's what happens when you push a change to production and you or someone around you shouts out an expletive. That is a change failure. Something went off about that change. We probably want to roll it back or push forward a hot fix, something like that. We need to do that immediately. And then your rework rate. How many deployments over the last 6 months or over the last year, how many deployments that you did were not planned deployments, but they were maybe in a response to an expletive that someone shouted out. That's rework that we didn't plan on doing. So we traditionally within DORA have looked at these 4 metrics, and for the past 2 years now, 5 metrics, to really understand how teams are performing. But the reality is that if we think about a team is more than just software delivery performance. An application is more than just software delivery performance. So this year, and we've done this before, but we're doing it quite explicitly this year, we're looking beyond just those 4 measures or just those software delivery performance measures to understand what is the makeup of your team. How are you doing and what are the areas where you might want to improve? So we looked across a number of different components or things that you experience at work: team performance, product performance, delivery performance, individual effectiveness, time doing valuable work, burnout, and friction. We want to understand with all of the teams, like think about the team that you're on. How would you rate your team across these different characteristics? Well, we did the analysis and we looked at all of these responses that we got from our survey. And I should mention that there were nearly 5,000 survey respondents this year. So that gives us a lot of really great insight into organizations of every shape and size in every industry vertical. And across those, we looked at all of those different outcomes that I just described, and we sort of do what we call a cluster analysis. We throw all these answers down on a plot, and these clusters emerge. Each cluster is similar to the other groups of people within that cluster and distinct from other clusters. So through this analysis, we identified 7 different types of teams. Now we have to name those 7 teams, and so we gave them names like you see on the board here. Some of these names, maybe there's a name up there that you're like, yep, that's my team. We are definitely the legacy bottleneck team. Maybe. These names might not map directly, but some of the experiences might map directly to what you're feeling. So what do these experiences look like across those different criteria? It looks like this. I'll just give you a minute to digest that. Okay, you got it? Everyone, all right. I'll move on to the next topic of this presentation. No. I'll give you a little bit more detail here. These sort of radar or spider charts kind of show how you're doing against each one of those capabilities. And you can see that each of those 7 are quite different. We don't have time to go through all 7, but let's look at 2. Let's look at our friends, the legacy bottleneck. What's happening with them? So we look at the data here, and what we see in the data, like it's kind of like looking into the matrix, right? We see teams that are in a constant state of reaction. We're always just putting out fires. Unstable systems are really controlling a lot of what we do. Now, the good news is that only about 11% of respondents from our survey fell into this sort of team profile. But product performance is low. The team delivers regular updates, but the value realized is diminished by ongoing quality issues and elevated levels of friction and burnout within our team. How many of you are feeling seen? You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to raise your hand, all right? So the legacy bottleneck. Now, the important thing about this is when we know where we are and when we understand what's happening on our team, this gives us ideas about what we might want to go and improve. In this particular case, maybe we see that burnout is high. So we should use more AI, right? That's not going to help burnout, right? But we can then think about what are some of the systemic issues within our organization that are leading to that higher level of burnout. We see software delivery instability very high. How can we address that? Let's contrast the legacy bottleneck with those harmonious high achievers. Now you all feel seen. Who feels seen here? You can raise your hand. Your boss is watching. You are a harmonious high achiever. We've got 20% of our respondents here, and this is, we think this is what excellence looks like. You've got a virtuous cycle, stable, low friction environment. You're able to deliver high quality. The work is sustainable, right? It's a sustainable pace. This is kind of what you want to strive for. You want to have those low levels of burnout, low levels of friction. You're spending a lot of time on work that you feel is valuable. So if we look at these 2 kind of side by side, right, you can see that the shapes are very different. And you probably have a feeling for which team you're on today and which team you want to be on tomorrow, right? And if you're on that harmonious high achiever team today, you want to stay there. You want to keep that. And if you're on the legacy bottleneck team or a team that fits like that, there's some hope for you. Remember, 20% of our survey respondents were in that harmonious high achiever spot. Actually, the legacy bottleneck only had 11. So if you're in that legacy bottleneck, like, you're part of the 11%. That's pretty awesome. Go you. But we can always get better. All right, well look, so if we're thinking about, let's see, what the next slide, I had to think about what the next slide was, right? So if we go back to those performance measures, software delivery performance measures, remember we have throughput and stability. Oftentimes we think we can get one or the other, right? We can be fast or we can be stable. Well, what DORA has shown us for more than a decade is that's a lie. It's not a choice of which one you want. They typically move together. And that's what this chart shows. So we took those same team profiles and we wanted to understand how do they compare with their software delivery performance. Across this x-axis here, the closer you get to me, the higher your throughput. Across the y-axis, the higher you get, the more instability you have. So look at this. We've got two groups over here that have very high throughput and very low instability. We have no teams that have both high throughput and high instability. And in fact, as you move to the left, as you slow down, generally what happens is your instability goes up. This is what we have. And when your boss comes to you and says, we can't go any faster because we keep breaking things, bring the DORA report to them and say, look, when we go slower, we have a higher chance of being unstable. We have to speed up to improve both our throughput and our stability. Now, this is all, I think, pretty great, good insights, but what about that AI? Like, yeah, I want to improve my software delivery performance, but I want to get the best out of AI. And so this year we are introducing, you're the first audience to ever see this, the DORA AI capabilities model. Because this year we wanted to understand not just if you're using AI, but how are you using AI? And are there capabilities or conditions that enable your team and your organization to get the most out of AI? And so we came up with a bunch of hypotheses. We tested all of these hypotheses. We tested, I think it was something like 15 or 18, it's in the report, 15 or 18 different capabilities and conditions that we thought potentially could help you get more out of AI. We essentially want to answer the question, it's not just like if you're using AI, but how. How do you use AI to get the most out of it? Of those 15 or so capabilities, what we found were that there were 7 that were truly predictive of you getting better use out of AI. And so these are things that if your organization isn't thinking about these things, if your team isn't working in these ways, you're not going to get the most out of your investments in AI. How many of you are using AI at work again on, let's say, coding, on codings? You or someone in your team, right? And how many of you are measuring things like the acceptance rate that gets returned? Like AI generates some code for you. We see, oh yeah, our developers accepted that, therefore AI must be good, right? We are measuring things as an industry. We're spending a lot of time measuring adoption of AI. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to adopt AI if you want it to have any impact. But adoption alone isn't enough. It's not sufficient. It is necessary. You have to adopt before it can actually change anything. But if you want to get a real return on your investment, you have to focus in on these 7 different capabilities. We don't have time to go through them all. I'll read them off really quickly for you. Clear and communicated AI stance, a healthy data ecosystem, accessible data for your AI models and so forth, strong version control practices, working in small batches, a user-centric focus, and quality internal platforms. We don't have time to go through them all, but I do want to go through a couple of them. The first is a clear and communicated AI stance. This is probably the most important capability. I mean, I love all of my capabilities equally. I do. But this is really, really important. A clear and communicated AI stance. If your organization is not clear about how people within your organization can use AI, when, where, under what circumstances, what data can you feed to it, what data can you accept out of it, if you're not clear on that, it causes all kinds of friction for the people on your team. We see this not only in our surveys, but we also have about 100 hours of qualitative data that we've collected, interviews that we've done one-on-one with practitioners and leaders, and we see this clear and communicated stance coming up over and over again. Now with DORA, we don't actually take an opinion on what that stance should be, other than that it is clear and well communicated. You could say no use of AI. If you say that, that's clear and communicated, like you win. You're not going to get a whole lot of benefit out of AI because of that clear and communicated stance, but at least your people know where you stand. That's good. We see that when you have this clear and communicated stance, you get increased individual effectiveness, team performance, organizational performance, and software delivery throughput. And importantly, we see reduced friction. So in general, AI doesn't have an impact on friction. But when we're clear and communicative about our stance, we can actually reduce the friction that people feel in their daily work. And again, this pops up in our interviews. I don't understand if I'm allowed to use this or not. Think about that in terms of burnout. One of the conditions of burnout is that you're unable to disconnect from your work. Let's say you're using AI at work and you're not sure if you're allowed to. You might be worried that you're going to get caught. You might be worried that there are going to be some negative consequences from using it. That worry doesn't disappear when you walk out the door at the end of the day. You carry that worry with you, and that can contribute to burnout. Next up is working in small batches. Now, DORA and we as an industry have known and continue to report on for years, one of the best ways to improve software delivery performance is to ship smaller changes. Work in small batches. And guess what AI is better at? Small, discrete tasks. Is that going to change over time? Probably. But is our capacity to evaluate what comes out of the AI going to change over time? We still want to look at small, discrete tasks. When we see teams working in small batches, we see increased product performance and, again, a reduction in friction. This is really, really important. The third capability that I want to look at is the user-centric focus. I've heard the same headlines. I've read the same news articles that you are. Everyone in this organization has to start using AI for their job. If you don't use AI for your job, you can find another job. What does that tell us? Like, all right, so I have to use a new tool, and it doesn't matter how or why. We have to not forget that the reason we got into technology, hopefully most of us, is to go and serve some users, like to build things for customers. I build things because I want people to use them. I want people to find delight in them and come back and use them over and over again. And if I have a mandate to go use AI, where's the user in that mandate? How am I helping people? We have to stay focused on that. So when we see teams that are focusing on the outcomes that they're driving for their users, they're taking feedback from their users and incorporating them back into their applications, we see better team performance. But what's worse is if you have a low level of user centrism, like you aren't thinking about your users, you're just thinking about, there's a ticket, I'll pull that ticket, I'll ship that ticket. There's a ticket, I'll pull that ticket, I'll ship that. But I'm using AI. When you have that disconnection from your users, it actually decreases your team performance. So having that good focus on user centricity, that user-centric focus, not only can improve your performance, but without it, you're actually harming your team performance. So that's really important. So we put out this capabilities model. We haven't put it out yet, to be clear. We will be putting out this capabilities model, and it will show you how, with AI adoption in these capabilities and conditions, you can drive these outcomes. Now, there's a lot of arrows, but don't worry, you'll come to know and love this. But here's how you can use this. You can start on the right-hand side and say, look, as a team, where do we want to improve? Maybe we want to improve our product performance. Maybe that's the goal that we're setting for right now. Let's follow those arrows backwards and see which conditions coupled with AI actually drive product performance. In this case, it's accessible internal data, it's working in small batches, and there's my friend, clear and communicated stance. So when we have AI adoption together with those, our data shows that drives better product performance. So in closing things out, what we really find, the big message from this year's report, AI's primary role in software development is that of an amplifier. If you work at an organization that is a streamlined organization. You're working well together. You've got great culture. You're able to ship products fast and safe. AI is going to amplify all of that. On the other side of that, if you're working in an organization that is disconnected, where getting work done is hard and full of friction, AI is going to amplify that. So it's going to get worse. So think about these capabilities. Think about how we're approaching the use of AI. And it's also to say that I have some advice for leaders. I'm out of time, so the leaders don't get any advice today, and you don't get any key takeaways. But I will leave you with this at least. And this QR code is not a prank. Like, you can go to that QR code; it's real. Look, we can't do any of this alone. AI is fundamentally changing how all of us are doing our work. And we have to experiment, we have to learn, and we have to share those lessons that we're learning with one another. You're doing that today by being here at DevOps Days DC, and so you should applaud yourself for that. Carry these lessons forward and join us in the DORA community, where we have thousands of practitioners and leaders and researchers just like you, taking this research and putting it into practice, because you cannot improve alone. With that, there's the URL that doesn't work. I mean, it works, but you can't get the report there yet, but you'll be able to. Thank you so much.